to episode 2 of the Secondary League Podcast, a baseball podcast presented by thepinchRunner.com. I'm baseball YouTuber and writer for the Pinch Runner, Dawson Wright, and today I am joined by Noah Wright, also from the Pinch Runner. How's it going, Noah?
It's going good.
Alright, so we have actually a lot to cover today compared to last episode. Altuve signed a extension with the Astros for 5 years, $151 million. Salary caps, we're going to talk about salary caps and how teams like the Yankees and the Rays and how it affects guys like that. We're going to talk about Judge getting in trouble with MLB's tampering department for trying to, quote, recruit Machado to the Yankees. And we're also going to talk about the new MiLB runner on second base rule. So it's a pretty impacted show, I would say.
I would say there's a lot to talk about, too.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with Altuve. So, Altuve signed 5-year extension with the Astros, $151 million, correct?
Yeah, $151 million.
All right, what do you think of the deal?
I thought it was a good deal for Altuve, and I think it's a good way to lock down a very good piece, a big cog of their lineup for the Astros.
Yeah, for the Astros, this is great because you have guys like Correa and Bregman, and Keuchel's going to be a free agent next year. But when you have those guys, with contracts coming up, you want to make sure you at least keep one of them. And Altuve was a good choice, I would say.
Yeah, after winning MVP last year, I think it's a bright idea to lock him down too, because next year he would be on the last year of his contract with a team option.
Which they would accept. So, all right, let's see. I think Altuve, him being from Venezuela, he's basically set for life at this point. It's about $30 million a year, which is a lot, especially for the Astros, who are kind of they're not a poor team, but they're not as rich as they should be.
They just kind of sit in the middle ground somewhere.
Yeah, they should be a lot richer. Just won the World Series, okay, fourth largest city in the world, right?
Yeah.
Texas is more of a football state, I would say. So the Astros, they don't have a lot of money. They have Verlander this year, who's making, I think, the most on their payroll. And now Altuve is going to be the highest paid guy on their payroll unless Verlander stays and signs a massive contract. I wanted to point out, so when Albert Pujols was a free agent, right?
When he's a free agent next time?
No.
Or when he was a
free agent last time, okay? He made his contract was $240 million, okay? For 10 years, right? Okay. Yeah. And this 10 years are basically his regressive years, right?
Yeah.
So, and Altuve has made he's gonna make about $176 million over his best 12 years of his career. MVP Altuve is gonna make 176, while old Pujols is making $240 million.
In his declining years.
Yes. I don't think...
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't think Altuve is going to regress as much, because this only takes him into his age 35 season, I'm pretty sure.
34? Age 34.
Age 34, yeah, okay. So it doesn't take him that deep into his career, and he's less of a... He's not really a power hitter, so I would say it's pretty...
I mean, he's broke out for power the last few years, if you look at it. He started to show power in 2015 with 15 home runs, and then the last 2 years, he's hit 20 or 24 home runs and has had a slugging percentage over 530 the last 2 years, too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think he's a pure power guy like Pujols was.
No, Pujols was not. He's much less of a power hitter than Pujols, but he's still a dynamic player, one of the best in the game right now.
Yeah.
That he can show that he can steal 30 bases, but also hit 20 home runs in the season.
And doesn't...
There's not too many people like that.
Yeah, and he doesn't have a 20% strikeout percentage.
Yeah.
All right, so I feel like this is a good time to transition into our next topic, which is
Yeah.
salary caps in baseball, which I know I have some hard feelings about.
I don't really like salary caps, if you ask me,
Mm-hmm.
but I just don't want to implement it because I'd rather, because it's not fair, I think, to some teams to have a salary cap. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Oh, oops. Go
Well,
ahead.
what do you mean by having like a salary cap? Would it be
Okay.
fair? How would it not? How would it not be fair? Because
I
like the whole premise of a salary cap is to be fair to teams.
Yeah. I think sometimes it could affect with how teams play off their off seasons. Like some teams play off their off seasons a lot the same every year, and I think that would really change up the strategy for some teams. What are your thoughts on it?
Okay. Well, my thing is like in the Stanton video that I made, I addressed how like, oh, like a salary cap would basically be used to make sure that the MLB doesn't become like the NBA, where it's just all about super teams, and there's really like three, maybe four teams that can compete for the NBA championship this year, right?
Yeah.
Like the point of the salary cap would basically be to be that. I addressed it, but I still don't like it because like think about what a
I agree
salary
with what
cap would
you're
be.
saying.
It's about to even the free agent market, right?
Yeah.
The free agent market will never be even if you implement a salary cap. And I'll tell
No.
you why.
There's always going to be a lot of players that are going to get paid
Yeah.
a lot. Then.
Well, no. Well, if you think about it, like if the Yankees can offer someone this much, right? And the Rays can offer them like the same amount, right? Because salary cap, right? The Yankees can't offer them as much; they make about the same salary. But the thing is, though, I'm gonna ask you, if you're a player, where would you rather go, New York or Tampa Bay?
New York.
Exactly. Unless you have some sort of like, oh, I was born and raised in Tampa, grew up a Rays fan kind of thing, you would
Yeah.
go
Then
to the New York Yankees. You would go to the New York Yankees. Even if the Rays probably offered you more money, you'd probably still go to the Yankees. Like if the Rays offered you like $4 more million like a year, you'd probably still go to the Yankees.
because of the Yankees.
Mm-hmm. Like I mean, they're like right now is it the best example because the Rays aren't good and their stadium is garbage. Like this is before they're gonna get their whole new stadium in 2020, I think. But like if you're a player, you want to go to a big market team. I mean, probably. We're excluding personal bias, like, oh, I grew up here or whatever. But you're going to want to go to a big market team, a team that has a history of winning, and probably a team that's good at the moment. Because baseball, and just like every other sport, is about winning. The end goal is winning. Like, the Astros, they blew up all so they could get that World Series championship, which they did. Mission accomplished. They're going to tear it down in a few years and then blow up again.
Yeah.
Players
They're
want
going to
to
eventually
win.
not have enough money to like re-sign all their players, so they're just going to have to tear down and build up their farm system.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's probably going to be some players out there that are just like, oh, I just want to play with a fun team, but no, you want to win. You want to win a World Series.
Yeah, you sign with the team with the best chance. If you are giving two offers and one of them has a better chance of making the playoffs and going to the World Series than another team, you're obviously going to choose the one with the better chances of winning.
Yeah, and like a lot of like, if you installed a salary cap in baseball, right? Saying they installed it like today.
Okay.
Players would be upset.
Now, I think it would also upset a lot of players.
Players would be pissed. Players would be very upset because players would make less money, and the market's already dead right now. Imagine what they would make if there was a salary cap. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
it would completely mess up the market.
Mm-hmm. Like the market would be totally it would be flipped, like all on its side.
Yeah, like we said last week, free agency is not what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
3-4 years ago. It may not, like I said, unfair, but it would completely mess up a lot of other things.
Like when we were talking about in the last podcast, free agency, right? Like
Yeah.
the whole reason it died was because players were getting used to getting these massive contracts, and then this year they just kind of didn't happen. So they were just like, "Oh, well, I'm just not gonna sign because I'm a Cy Young pitcher 2 years ago," and then teams are like, "Oh, well, you're not
We
a
don't care
Cy.
what you did 2 years ago.
We're not.
What
You're
do
not
you
a
do
Cy
now?"
Young pitcher now. So no, we're not gonna give you $200 million." Jake Arrieta. But the whole salary cap thing, it would never work. Just no.
It would completely mess up the market.
Yeah.
It would mess up a lot of other things too.
It would never work. Like the way baseball has been structured, like the way the baseball market has been structured in the past few years, there's no way it could work ever.
No.
Bad idea. All right. So, now we're going to get into Aaron Judge, who has gotten in a little bit of trouble recently for, quote, recruiting Manny Machado to the Yankees. So the story goes, Judge was asked a question on his, like, recruitment of Machado to the Yankees. And then Judge said, adding him to our lineup that we already got would be something special. I told him he'd look good in pinstripes. That's it. All he said. That's all he said after he was asked a question about it.
To the Yankees.
Yeah. That's all he said. And then MLB is like freaking out because like he got in trouble with the tampering, the whole tampering thing, and because it's like, oh, he's trying to recruit Manny Machado to go to the Yankees or something, right? Like when players do this publicly, like MLB really has a problem, and I don't really know why. Like if a player is in a bad situation, right? Like, hey, we're just gonna say that, the Orioles aren't the best team right now. They aren't. They're not. They're probably not gonna make the playoffs. I mean, if they do, great, but they're probably not gonna make the playoffs. The Orioles aren't going to be able to offer him as much money as the Yankees are.
And they don't have a great farm system.
Yep. So, if you're Manny Machado, right, aren't you thinking, oh, like Manny Machado, he's already said, like, oh, I can't believe I'm going to be a free agent next year. And, like, he's like, oh, but I'm going to focus on this season with the Orioles, right?
Yeah.
He said that. So, he's going to go into free agency. Unless the Orioles pull some, like, start making money in their front office, he's gonna test free agency. I mean, he's probably gonna do it anyways, like any player would. He's a young player who's about to get the biggest paycheck of his entire life, right?
Yeah.
So, and I'm positive, and I know for a fact that players tell this to each other all the time, whether it's through text message after a game, they're like talking. They do this all the time. And Manny Machado said himself. Yeah. Machado, after this whole thing, he was asked about it. And he said, Aaron Judge is a great kid and has a great future ahead of him. He means well. I don't think he meant it in the wrong way. Anything outside of any other player who has said that to another player. Right? So Manny's basically saying, oh, this has already happened. Like, I'm sure guys on, I don't know, the Red Sox too, probably. Like, if he's talking to Bogarts or something, Bogart's like, oh, hey, you should come here next year, right? In like a playful gesture, which is basically the way Judge meant it, right?
Yeah, and I think part of it is it's blown out of proportion by the media.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of blown out of proportion, Machado also added on, he said, you know how many people I've told that they would look good in Orioles black and orange? It's just part of the game. I think people blow it out of proportion. And he is completely right. They do blow it out of proportion.
I think MLB had a very strong reaction to it, even though it wasn't even that bad.
Yeah. MLB, they basically told the Yankees, oh, you better make sure Judge doesn't do this again, or we're gonna suspend him for tampering.
That's pretty strict.
Are you kidding?
That's very strict for him saying, "Oh, I think he looked good in Yankees jerseys."
Yeah, he just said, "Oh, I think he looked good in pinstripes," in like a playful kind of way, right? It's not like he said, oh, he should go to the Yankees in free agency next season. He didn't say that. He just said, oh, he looked good in pinstripes.
It was like a nonchalant comment, you know?
Yeah, because he was just answering a question, right? And, like, players will do this anyways, all the time. It's not like this never happens. This happens a lot. I'm sure it happens, like, once every day in the regular season. Like, it happens so much, and MLB knows it happens. They just want to make sure the public doesn't know that it happens, even though we know that it happens. Like, to the casual fan, they probably want them to be like, oh, this is not okay. You cannot do this, right? Like, in the NBA, like, you know, Magic Johnson's been, you know, like, fined or whatever for tampering with Paul George to try and get him to the Lakers. Even though he said, like, oh, I think you look good in a Lakers uniform or something like that, right? It's like, really? Yeah. You're gonna
overreact over that?
You're gonna fine him for that. It's gonna happen anyways, over text message or whatever.
So why stop such a nonchalant comment, you know?
Because it's MLB, and they're very hardcore with stuff like that, I would say. So, alright, time to get into our last topic of the day, which I know upsets you very much.
Very much does.
And it is the new MiLB pace of play rules. Now, the pitch clock is now 15 seconds.
Well, that doesn't bother me that much.
Yeah, they applied the MLB pitching mound change visit rule. They applied that, which we talked about in the last podcast. But the one they added, which upsets you, Noah, very much.
It does.
Is in extra innings, they're going to start with a runner on second base. They're going to do like the international second base rule thing. So, go ahead and take it away.
I don't like this at all. It's just not right, I don't think. It's going to very much affect minor league relief pitchers, ERAs, and other statistics like WHIP and some of their FIP, field independent pitching, because they're going to start with a runner on second. A single drives home the winning run for the home team. It's going to give the home team a very, very big advantage in extra innings. And if it gets implemented into the majors, there's going to be a lot more bunting. There's going to be a lot more, like I said earlier, different. It's going to change players' ERAs and other statistics like that a lot. And it's a blown save is now going to be ended with a single.
Okay. Well, okay, what I was curious about, which I haven't been able to find, I've been looking for it everywhere. So, right? So, it'll start with the runner on second, okay, who was the guy that was the last out of the last inning, right? Standard international rule, okay?
Yeah.
So, who is that runner charged to? Because who's responsible for that runner is what indicates who gets the earned run against them.
It's gonna.
Is it gonna be the pitcher, or is it gonna be nobody, or is it gonna be the guy that pitched last inning?
Yeah, I feel they're gonna charge it to the pitcher that gives up the run.
I mean, or it could be charged to nobody. I mean, I've looked for this and I haven't been able to find it. But if you're scoring a game, do you charge it to the guy that's pitching, even though he didn't allow him to get on base because he got out last inning?
I feel like they would charge it to the pitcher that gives up the hit or lets him score.
Yeah.
Let's just say it's Pirates and Felipe Rivero comes in the 11th and the runner's on second, and like they're playing in, let's just say, Cincinnati, and they start with Votto on second. If he gives up the hit that scores Votto, Rivero gets charged on his ERA. That's what I think that would happen.
Like, okay, they could charge it to nobody, but that'd be really confusing because it'd probably count as an RBI as well. So it's like, well, then where did that run come from? It just came from nothing. Like, okay, this rule is just implemented in minor leagues right now.
It might not even last that long either.
Like, okay, I don't think it's the worst thing that they've done with this whole pace of play thing, because I hate the mound visit rule.
I don't like that one, but I dislike this one even more.
I don't like it, but I don't absolutely despise it because I get the idea. Because it's like, it's the minor leagues, right? Who cares, right? That's basically, I feel like, their attitude for it. But you said it would affect bullpen relief pitchers' ERA a lot, right? Will it though? Because if you think about it, how many games, right? Of one team in the minor league season, it varies from team to team, but how many of their games go into extra innings? It's not a lot.
I don't know the rate, but I feel you don't think it's a lot.
Yeah.
I know you live close to a minor league team.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, it doesn't happen that much. I mean, it happens, but it doesn't happen that much, I would say.
If it's implemented into the majors, I feel like it would change some ERAs.
Okay, the fact that it's in the minors, I mean, I don't like it, but I don't really care. I honestly don't really care that much that it's in the minors, right? If they implement it in the...
It's in the minors right now. I feel like they'll eventually consider putting in the MLB.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel when they say, "Oh, we're going to try this in the minors." When I hear that, I feel like they're going to think about putting this in the MLB someday.
Mm-hmm. Like eventually, if they put it in the majors, that is what would upset me a lot, because that's a whole different issue if they put that in the majors, which is why I think this whole thing happened. I don't think it's because, oh, minor league baseball wants games to end faster. I think it's MLB's thinking about implementing this so
they're going to see how it works in the minors. That's how I see it too.
Like what they did with the pitch log. And if they do this, I will be driven absolutely crazy. No. If they implement it in the majors, that's when I'll have a problem with it. But right now I'm kind of thinking, who cares?
I'm still having a slight problem with it because I'm seeing it as, like you said, they're thinking about putting in the MLB, and I don't like that.
Mm-hmm. And, okay, yeah, it needs to stop if they're going to implement it in the MLB, because that cannot happen, ever.
No. That
can't happen. If they do that, it's just... I like people earning their runs.
I do. That was part of my argument I was going to make. I like also seeing them earn their runs through, either walking, through, them being patient enough at the plate, or getting hits and getting on base and scoring. I like, that too.
And the thing with the whole rule, right? It's okay. So the runner on second is the guy who got out last inning, and I say they can put in a substitute for that player. So if they implemented this in the majors, okay, you'll see more sack bunts, a lot of sack bunts, right? And you'll probably see...
They're going to want to push that runner over to third with one out, and it's like, well, that's going to give a huge advantage to the home team, too.
And you'll probably see a guy that gets a roster spot that's just like a pure kind of speed guy. You'll probably get one of those guys, too. Like, where his job is to be that guy. That's his job on the team. He's probably going to be like a fast bunting kind of dude.
You're going to get a Herb Washington. Do you know who that is?
No, I don't.
I'll tell you later.
All right. But you're going to get guys like Herb Washington, right? Where their job is to run and bunt, basically. That's basically what their job is going to be. Mm-hmm.
Just be able to run. They're not going to have any other job, but if it goes into extra innings, you're going to be put on second.
Yeah, and they'll probably be like the fifth outfielder on their team or something like that. This rule, another thing about it affecting pitchers' ERAs and stuff, right? I feel like that team, right? Because, in the minor leagues, it's really about the team that's scouting that player, or if there's a team looking to trade for that player, right?
Yeah.
It's like those guys, right? If players want to evaluate those guys, then they're not gonna think of them any less, I would say. They would know, with how advanced teams' front offices are nowadays, they would know if a guy is he gave up 3 of his runs on his ERA in an extra innings rule where he only gave up a single or something. The game was over, right?
Yeah.
Teams would know that when they're evaluating the players. So I don't think that is as much of a valid argument against this rule, I would say.
that was I thought it might affect it. I don't know exactly if they would charge it to their yard, but that was just I thought they might. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if they are either. We'll just kind of have to see how it works. I mean, my guess is probably knowing this rule, how it's existed in the international leads and whatever, it'll probably be like that. But who knows at this point? Honestly, soon we'll have robot umpires and stuff like that. All right, well, today's episode was a little bit of a shorter episode because some of you guys were saying to make them shorter, so here you go. And I hope you guys did enjoy, and we will see you guys in the next episode.